It seems like every movie these days ends up getting a sequel, and you and I both know exactly why that happens. But let's not get into that right now, because as you can tell from the title, we're here to break down the ending of Sicario Day of the Soldado and how it set up a sequel. With Sicario 3 officially in development, let's dive into everything we know about the next chapter in the franchise. Before we jump into how Sicario Day of the Soldado set up a sequel, let's talk about something interesting: Josh Brolin's uncertainty about Taylor Sheridan's involvement. With all the buzz around Sicario 3, Brolin recently gave an update on Sicario Capos, but it wasn't exactly reassuring. He admitted that things are getting closer, but there's not much else to report in terms of progress. One major update, though, is that director Chris McQuarrie is no longer attached to the project. As for Sheridan, Brolin isn't sure if he's involved or not. Here's what Brolin had to say: "We're closer, yes. Molly Smith, one of the producers at Black Label and a good friend of mine, was very reactive when I said, 'It's never going to happen,' and that got around. But they really want it to happen. We just won't move forward until there's a story worth the investment. Chris McQuarrie was involved for a while, but not anymore. And as for Taylor Sheridan, I know him well, but I don't know if he's on board or not." So while there's some movement, it sounds like things are still up in the air for Sicario 3. Furthermore, Sicario 3 is officially confirmed by producer Trent Luckenbill, but it looks like it's stuck in development limbo with no release date in sight. Josh Brolin was pretty optimistic about the third movie in a past interview with The Hollywood Reporter, even revealing that Taylor Sheridan had already finished the script. He said, "It's very much at the forefront of all of our minds. It's been written, and we think it deserves a third one." On top of that, Luckenbill even teased that Denis Villeneuve might return to direct, which would be huge for the franchise. But for now, it seems like we're still waiting for things to move forward. Alright, now that it's official that a third Sicario movie is happening, let's break down what Sicario Day of the Soldado left us with and how it sets up the next installment. Sicario 2 kept up the franchise's dark and intense vibes, delivering some big twists and shocking moments while leaving plenty of room for another story. The movie kicks off with a domestic attack that prompts the U.S. government to classify drug cartels as terrorist organizations. That's when Matt Graver and Alejandro Benicio del Toro comes in with a plan to shake things up. They kidnap Isabella, the daughter of cartel boss Carlos Reyes, and frame it as the work of a rival gang. But of course, things don't go as planned, leading to a chaotic ending. Like the first Sicario, this movie dives into the messy and morally complex war on drugs. It doesn't just give us intense action, but also raises some thought-provoking questions about who the real good guys and bad guys are, if there even are any. The ending leaves a lot to unpack, so let's go step by step. Matt Graver is back as the shadowy government operative, and while he and Alejandro are usually on the same side, things get complicated. When Alejandro activates his tracker, hoping for rescue, Matt is given an order that puts him in an impossible position: clean up the mess, which means eliminating both Alejandro and Isabella. Matt leads a team to take them out, but things don't go as planned. While he's always been someone who does whatever needs to be done, no matter how brutal, this situation shakes him. When he sees Alejandro taken out by smugglers, it's both a relief and a nightmare. He doesn't have to kill his old ally, but he also has to live with the fact that he's dead. This guilt drives him to spare Isabella instead of following orders to kill her. A rare moment of humanity for Matt, but it leaves us wondering, was this the right call or a huge mistake? At the start of the movie, Isabella is a tough, fearless teenager who knows the power she holds as a cartel boss's daughter. She gets into fights at school and isn't afraid to make threats. But once her father's protection is stripped away, she realizes just how vulnerable she really is. Her journey forces her to face the reality of her privileged but dangerous life. By the end of the film, Matt decides to put her under witness protection. This moment speaks volumes about his internal struggle, but it also highlights Isabella's complete lack of control. She's just another piece in this brutal war, passed around like a commodity, much like the immigrants the cartels smuggle. If Sicario 3 explores her story further, it could dig even deeper into the human cost of this conflict. One of the major themes of Sicario 2 is how the aggressive, no-rules approach to fighting cartels ultimately crumbles. In the first movie, we saw Emily Blunt's Kate Mercer caught in a morally gray operation, but at least the government had some plausible deniability. In Day of the Soldado, they pushed their influence even further, until everything blows up in their faces. When the mission goes sideways and becomes public knowledge, the U.S. government quickly loses faith in the whole operation. It's exactly what Kate warned about in Sicario. The moment this kind of warfare leaves the shadows, it all falls apart. If Sicario 3 brings back director Denis Villeneuve, it would be fascinating to see how the government shifts its strategy now that their direct approach has failed. One of the biggest twists in Sicario 2 is Alejandro's apparent death. When he's captured by smugglers while trying to cross the border as a migrant, he tries to walk his way out but ends up being shot in the head by Miguel, a young smuggler he encountered earlier. It seems like the end for Alejandro, but not so fast. It turns out Miguel didn't actually kill him. Instead, he only shot Alejandro in the jaw, causing massive blood loss but not a fatal wound. By the time we catch up with Alejandro again, he's still very much alive, though now officially dead in the eyes of the CIA, meaning he's free to operate however he wants. The last scene of the movie jumps forward a year, showing Miguel now fully immersed in the cartel world. He's got the tattoos, the tough look, and the attitude, but then Alejandro shows up, very much alive, with just a small scar as a reminder of their last meeting. Instead of seeking revenge, Alejandro asks, "You want to be a Sicario?" before closing the door. This ending is super ambiguous. Is Alejandro looking to train Miguel as his apprentice, or is this just another manipulation? The implication is that Alejandro sees potential in Miguel, someone who has the guts to push back against authority, but also knows the game well enough to survive. It's a setup that could lead to some really interesting dynamics in Sicario 3. The ending of Sicario 2 hints at three major players clashing in Sicario 3: Alejandro, Matt, and potentially Kate Mercer. Now, all we have to do is wait and see where Sicario 3 takes us. And that wraps up today's video. If you want to stay updated on all the latest movie news, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. By doing so, you'll stay in the loop with all our future updates. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Remember, we're always open to your suggestions for future videos, so feel free to leave them in the comments below.